it's Jennifer DeCastro. I want to take a minute and talk to you about a pretty heavy subject. I want to talk to you about death. With the coronavirus going on right now, there is a pretty high likelihood that you will know someone who's impacted by this virus. Whether it's you, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's someone in your community, whether it's someone through 6 degrees of separation, the way the statistics are coming out, it says that you're going to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, or it might personally affect you. This terrifies a lot of people. It has a lack of control. It has a factor of unknown to it, which creates a fear. It's very difficult for us as humans to lose control, to have such a significant unknown ahead of us. The Bible talks about how fear is not from God, that it is from the enemy. And if we let it overcome our minds, if we let it overcome our lives, then we are not walking in a way that will demonstrate the gifts God's given us. It's not easy to face death, but it does say that death, where is your sting? Meaning the Bible says that. Death shouldn't have a sting to us that brings a fear to us. It should have a tension, yes. My dear friend Michael lost his father last night to the coronavirus. And he wrote this: as difficult as this is, God has given us a peace through this process. As followers of Jesus, we face this weird paradox of saying goodbye and knowing our father died. And this strange belief that in another sense, he has never been more alive. He has left what is temporary and stepped into the power of God's presence in eternity. That tension creates a feeling of grief and unexplainable joy, all within the same moment. I remember in Exodus 12 where it talks about the Passover. And there was an angel of death that was coming through and was going to take the firstborn of every household. So believers went and put blood on the doorpost, and that let the angel know not to come into that home. We're not under that law. We don't need to go put blood on our doorposts. But what stuck out to me about that story is after that night, there was a loud wailing in Egypt, and there was not a household without someone dead. Somebody knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who had passed away. I'm not a big crier, but if somebody else cries, it makes me cry. I have developed an empathy as I've gotten older. The Lord had softened my heart in many, many ways through many circumstances that weren't always easy. But I have a much softer heart now. So when I think about my friend Michael, I grieve with him. There wasn't a household that wasn't touched during the Passover. There was wailing. It would have been very painful to hear. We're hearing stories right now that are very painful to hear. It is not easy. 2 months ago, a friend of mine named Brian passed away. He had an unexpected heart attack. I have cried more regarding his death than I've cried in my whole life for multiple deaths. And I don't really know what that is, and I don't know why, but I do know that I celebrate that he's in the presence of the Lord. If you've ever had a moment where it's just you and God and you feel him, there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. So I understand when Michael's talking about that tension of grief and complete celebration that his dad is in the presence of the Lord. One of the hardest times for me as a minister, and I think other ministers would say this as well, is when someone passes away and you don't know if they're with the Lord. They say, is my brother, is my cousin, is my friend in heaven? I say, do they know Jesus? Were they a believer? They say, I don't know. I can't come with 100% confidence to them and say, of course, because that may not be a truth. As you're preparing for death in your community, in our nation, in this world, because someone you know that you know that you know is going to face this? Are they going to walk in the presence of the Lord? Are you going to have that healthy tension of grief and celebration? Or is there just going to be grief? I'm not asking you to be pushy, but I am encouraging you to talk to your friends right now who don't have God in their lives. They need that peace that passes all understanding. They need to have the assurance that death means nothing. It's just a transition to the presence of the Lord. I have that assurance. So although I'm surrounded by chaos and turmoil and craziness, there's a peace knowing that God has a plan, and I trust Him with that. I know that's a heavy conversation, and I know you're in a heavy time, but I also know God's presence can bring you a peace in this. And I pray that this angel of death doesn't come around your home. I pray that it doesn't impact you directly. But if it does, my deepest prayer is that you have that peace and that healthy tension between grief and celebration.